Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, January 5th, 2019. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many Search for Truth rules given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And there's somebody who's saying, why do we bother saying this when nobody listens? And somebody's saying, I know why we say it. We say it because it's our job to say it.
That's
and
true.
If we don't say it, then we aren't doing our job. It's important to speak up. And they're talking about the scientists who work for the federal government,
Yes.
who, according to the what is that group called? Union of Concerned Scientists. According to the Union of Concerned Scientists, many scientists whose job it is to report on climate change are self-censoring because they're afraid of receiving negative input from their bosses. And one of the teachings of our Ra for many years was in answer to the question of how do I know what it is I'm supposed to be doing with my life, he would say, look for the most important job that needs to be done, that is not finished or not effectively done, and start working on that. So here we are in Ground Zero, planet Earth, this dimension right here, with climate change issues and toxicity issues and species extinction issues, destruction of the ecosystem issues. And there are scientists who are on the payroll of the U.S. government with the responsibility of reporting on these topics, and they're pretending that somebody else is going to do it.
That's true.
And that doesn't even make sense. Like, who would be doing it other than the people whose job it is to do it? Scientists are... It's a group that self-selects not for courage. They tend to not be courageous people. They tend to be intelligent people and nice people, and we have a number of friends and relatives who are scientists.
That's true.
And they can be pleasant to be around, but they're not brave.
No, that's true.
For whom is the message, and why do you ask? I know who it's for. This same little person is saying, I know who it's for. It's for those presences who are supposed to be speaking up and aren't speaking up.
That's true.
What now to get miracles flowing into Ground Zero, planet Earth? When the miracles stop flowing in, the portal is shutting down.
That's true.
And a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, 2014, 2015, somewhere around there, maybe it was in 2015, there were still other portals that the higher-ups were trying out. They were on other planets and in other galaxies, but they were trying out other portals to get into Ground Zero. And they would basically say, this one is too hard to work with because she's such a stickler for the rules.
That's right.
And those rules don't apply to me in this situation.
That's right.
And they all said that. Those rules don't apply to me in this situation. And so we would say, okay, fine, why don't you go try those other lives, those other host lives on other planets and other galaxies. Go for it. Right, off you go. That's what the collection of soul presences would come to.
That's
like,
right.
Right, off you go. Shoot. Don't let the door hit you as you leave.
That's true.
But now they don't seem to be saying that anymore.
They don't seem to be saying, I think there's a better place somewhere else.
No. They seem to be trying to find the absolute minimum that they can change and still keep this portal open. And
yes, that's the feeling.
That's exactly how we humans are acting.
That's true.
About our biosphere level destruction. We're trying to change our society as little as possible. We don't want to give up frivolous travel. Many of us don't want to give up eating meat, although we haven't eaten meat in a long time.
That's true.
Is that true? It's true.
It's been a really long time.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. We do eat eggs. That's the only animal product that we still eat, but we're eating them from our own chickens in large part, and we think part of that is so that we have the assignment of observing a flock of chickens and seeing if you can get a small group of presences to do what it is they're supposed to do, even when the assignment is basic and simple and in alignment with their biological functioning.
That's true.
The answer is it's not easy.
No, really not.
Because of somebody asked why. Because of oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's everywhere. It's like it's
in the
soil, in the oxygen, in the atoms.
Yes, in the atoms.
It's everywhere. For whom is the message, and why do you ask? And what is it that you yourself are supposed to change about the way you're living so that portals into the depths stay open? What is it that souls contribute? How can a soul contribute to the life so as to avoid being fully parasitic?
I think what someone is saying is that recently there have been 2 answers that have been proposed to that same question, and one of them was allocation of resources, and one of them was getting miracles flowing down into ground zero. And this presence is talking about, it could be how those 2 concepts interact with each other.
Well, I think what might be happening, and again, I'm not sure who's speaking.
No, I don't know either.
Oh, here's a weird heart sensation. This body used to be very susceptible to.
Over here at the same time, also.
And we have not had it in a long time.
No, not a long time.
All right. The answer is tachycardia. For
That's
whom
true.
is the message, and why do you ask? Tachycardia in 2 lives simultaneously.
That's true.
And they say, how do you know what it is? Because we wore heart monitors back in the era when we were listening to Western medical practitioners as if they had anything useful to say.
That's true.
But we really did test that theory pretty thoroughly and came to the conclusion that they don't have anything useful to say other than in cases of trauma, in which case they're really good. Western medicine's really good at trauma care, which makes sense because it evolved out of battlefield care. It makes sense.
Oh, that's true.
For whom is the message, and why do you ask? And now the heart thing is going away.
Yeah, that's true.
Although it's leaving that kind of remnant thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it going away for you?
Yeah, with just that kind of remnant shutter bump.
Right.
Yeah.
We've all got to change. I think that's the point. Every single one of us has got to change, and every single one of us needs to stop asking how little can I do, but to start asking what more can I do? What more can I do to protect the natural world and those who have no voice against the onslaught? That's at this dimensional level, and interdimensionally, what more can I do to protect the smaller levels against the onslaught? How can I at least provide escape routes for the dead of smaller levels who want to get to spirit? How can I at least get them up out of the depths? And for those presences who don't want to ask, what now to get miracles flowing into deeper, denser dimensions? You don't have to, but I have an interest in it, whoever's speaking.
That's true.
What now to get miracles flowing into the denser dimensions? I'd like to get some miracles to the suffering electrons. They have, by and large, good attitudes compared to the rest of this disaster show of attitude.
That's true.
The electrons are on the high end of the scale of good attitudes. How I would like to help them. What now to get miracles flowing into the levels of electrons? As to allocation of resources and miracles, we think both of them are the same in that it's excruciatingly difficult to effect from inside the same density.
That's
getting
true.
a miracle to flow into something else when we're of the same density, it doesn't work all that well.
No, that's true.
That's why we enlist presences from other dimensions in the quest. In the healing work, the host lives do not create the miracles. The host lives provide the environment, and the angels provide the miracles.
That's true.
We're in the business of providing environments in which miracles consistently occur.
That's true.
And in the past, we know that the miracles would vary depending on the grace of the participants involved. And when you have a healing subject who has a lot of grace, the miracles would happen for them. And when the healing subject did not have a lot of grace, when they had used it up through procrastination or resistance to their soul plan,
That's true.
which is like trying to drive a life with the foot on the accelerator and the other foot on the brake.
Yeah, that's true.
You just drain your gas tank right away and you don't make much progress. That's what resistance to the soul plan does.
That's true.
And when working with some of those people as healing subjects, it's a challenge to get their situations unstuck unless we use our own personal grace. And we're no longer supposed to use our own personal grace.
That's true.
We're no longer supposed to use our own personal grace because we're supposed to save it for the bigger work.
That's true.
And so there are healing subjects that come into both of these practices where they've got no grace and they're not willing to deal with their stuff, and all they want to do is pretend that they don't have to change.
That's
and
true.
Miracles are not going to happen for those people anymore.
No, it doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. But the unfortunate reality is that the whole dimension is rotten and in oppositional defiant disorder.
That's true.
And if the overall program still requires interdimensional portals, some miracles have to flow to keep the portals open. It's just the reality of it.
That's true.
And the miracles have to come from the less dense realms. It's always come from the less dense realms.
That's true.
For whom is the message, and why do you ask? I think what they're trying to do is figure out which would be easier. Would it be easier to reallocate resources, or would it be easier to get miracles to flow?
That's what they're trying to figure out.
That's fine. If you're going to reallocate resources, please allocate them to Angela Merkel, who is the ground zero planet Earth planetary consciousness.
That's true.
She was offered the job because she was on the list. She was the first on the second tier, the less well-funded lives.
That's right.
And she was offered the job in order after everybody else had turned it down.
That's true.
Everybody else ahead of her on the list had turned it down, and she accepted the job.
That's right.
And it was known at the time the job was offered to her that she was not well-funded and she would need support reallocated to her. And it hasn't happened.
No,
and
that's
we've gotten
true.
signals that show that, as a matter of fact, support is being torn away from her
That's
in
true.
painful ways. Support she herself has grown or created, homegrown support, is being ripped away from her.
That's true.
Which is not what the situation calls for. Is anybody up there willing to give support to Angela Merkel? Are you willing to allocate resources to Angela Merkel that have not previously been allocated to her? And as to the healing miracles, we're not asking for miracles to be delivered to us. We're asking for miracles to be delivered to the presences who we're supposed to be training to work with angels. We've been given the assignment to train horse trainers to work with angels.
That's true.
Which we can follow. And how one trains a presence is one rewards good behavior and makes it clear that inappropriate behavior is frowned upon.
That's true.
And so that's what it's going to take. The horse trainers are going to need to see consistent, observable, immediate, lasting miracles. That's what it takes. For whom is the message? And why do you ask? And they're saying, well, it can't be consistent because so many of the presences have run out of grace. The horse doesn't have any grace. The trainer doesn't have any grace. The owner doesn't have any grace. The barn doesn't have any grace. The training center doesn't have any grace. The whole system doesn't have any grace. There's no grace.
That's true.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
What now to hold a portal open into Ground Zero planet Earth?
Feels like they've stumped them.
Mm-hmm. We stumped them because that's the best setup that we have been able to come up with, and it's the only one that's different enough from the experiments that have already been run to be worth a try. Everything else we came up with, anything involving humans as the subject, it's a no-go because humans are too oppositional defiant.
That's true.
And the pet horses are also a no-go. They're too oppositional defiant.
That's true.
The eventing horses are a no-go because they're too oppositionally defiant. And in addition, the trainers of the eventing horses are really repulsive to work with.
That's true.
And the trainers of the racing horses are not as repulsive. It's objective.
Yeah, that's
Who
right.
gets across the finish line first and doesn't break any rules?
That's right.
That's who wins. And these horses are athletes, and they have the benefit of exercise. And
that's true.
And they also are treated like commodities and slaves, and their attitudes aren't as bad. Hey, Pan, there's a pileated woodpecker here,
that's
right
true.
in front of us. For him is the message. And why do you ask? That's really the point. If they want a portal, something needs to change.
That's true.
Because the situation is what it is. Nobody has any grace, I agree. And we're supposed to save our grace for the big work. We can't spend it in the sessions.
That's true.
And so if the session has to stand on its own merits, nobody has any grace.
None. No grace.
None. It's all been spent with oppositional defiant disorder to the soul plan. For him is the message. Why do you ask?